Joshua from New Age Caravans Newcastle, and I usually do the handovers on caravans. So because of what's going on at the moment with COVID, I'll be showing you online how to work your caravan and everything on it. So starting off at the front, you got your two gas bottles. They'll be both full when you receive it. Now when you're traveling, you do travel with the gas bottles turned off, just to, in case you have an accident or anything like that, you don't have any gas inside the caravan at that point in time. So you just turn it on when you want to use it. You only run off one gas bottle at a time. You've got your little green valve up here. So whatever position that's pointing to is whatever gas bottle you're running off at the specific time. You can also put padlocks on them. So if you want to keep them secure, if they're parked outside on the lawn or something like that, you can. Every caravan comes with a 12-pin plug that runs your fridge and all your lights and stuff for the caravan. And you've also got an Anderson plug, which just runs your battery for charging your battery up while you're traveling. Then down here, you've got your breakaway system. It's pretty much a set and forget system. All you need to do is, when you plug it into your car, a little light will come on up here. As long as it is a solid color, it's telling you the system's working fine, either green, orange, or red. All that light does is tell you your battery level. So red is low, orange is medium, green is fully charged. As long as if it's a solid color, as I said, it's working fine. If it's flashing one of those colors, it's telling you something's gone wrong with the system and you need to get it looked at by somebody that works on caravans. And then you've got your hitch at the front. Standard hitch like on a standard trailer. You've also got your handbrake. Don't rely on the handbrake on hills. Always put shocks behind it. This is only there to stop it from rolling on slight hills and stuff like that. And always remember to take it off when you're traveling. You've also got your jockey wheel here. You remove it fully when you go to travel. You don't need to do this up that tight because you index these little ribs inside these cutouts to stop it from slipping up and down on the shaft. And then when you want to level the caravan, just wind it up and down to suit the height. And you've also got a tap on the A-frame down there, so when you're using the caravan you can wash your hands and stuff like that if you're barbecuing outside. Moving on to the passenger side tunnel boot. In here you do have your starter kit that's provided with the caravan. Inside it, you've got your grey water hose, freshwater drinking hose, all the fittings that you need to attach to the caravan and the caravan park, and a 15 amp power lead. There's also a couple of D-shackles in there as well. So pretty much you've got everything that you need to travel to a caravan park straight away. I would suggest to get a set of chocks for the wheels, once again, as I said, with the handbrake, just to make sure that it doesn't roll away on you on a steep hill. In here as well, you do have a gas bayonet lead for when you're running a barbecue outside. All you need to do with this is down here, there's your gas bayonet outlet. You just take the cap off and this just pushes up and twists on. So, and then you can screw this straight into your barbecue. You don't need a gas regulator on this because you're running off the regulator at the front of the van. And that means you can have your barbecue set up out here and you don't need a separate individual gas bottle for it. Now to work your main door, when it's locked, the door handle is flush with the door itself to indicate that it's locked. It also means that when you're traveling, you can't snap the door handle off if you rub up against something. So when I'm traveling, I do always keep the door locked just to make sure the handle can't break. Then when you unlock it, you put your key in, turn it to the right, handle pops up automatically, lift her up to open up the door. To use the fly screen on the door, what you need to do is pull this little lever here to the side and simultaneously lift this handle up and it separates the two parts of the door. You can shut the fly screen individually. It's crim safe, all metal construction, so it keeps the honest people out. Then you can individually lock this door by putting the key in and turning it to the left, and the handle folds down telling you that it's locked again. At any point, the door can be locked or unlocked to bring the two parts of the door back together, all you need to do is close the outer skin of the door, and now it's become one door again and it's secure. Then you've got your step. All you do with this is grab the front edge, lift it up and push it in towards the caravan, and it goes to the stowage position. When you want to use it, all you do is grab the front edge, pull it out towards you, and it locks into place. Now your caravan might have a two-step on it. The two-step and the single step both work the exact same, it's just that they've got two steps or one step. You've also got your handle light up here, so you can either tap the button for the blue lights in behind the handle, again for the white light up the top, and then once more to turn her off. Behind that, you've got your picnic table. To open this up, just lift your two latches up, comes down. She's a standard picnic table, so it's only rated to 25 kilos, so don't go putting too much weight on it. A big importance with this table is when you lift it up, always lift your latches out to close it. Because if you don't do that, it might not lock properly and it might fall down while you're traveling. Now, another thing to help out with it not falling down is you've got a lock here, or a key, so you can lock it. So when you're traveling, it won't accidentally come down on you when you're tripping around. You've got your two external speakers for if you want to listen to your music outside. You've got your 240 outlets, so if you want to charge things or have a second fridge or something outside. You've got your 12 volt socket outlet, so that's just a standard cigarette lighter socket, so you can have your TV plugged into this if you want to. And you've also got your antenna outlet, once again, if you want to have your TV outside. Then in here, you've got your toilet cassette. So with this style of lock, you lift it up, turn the tab 180 degrees, then lift it down. A big important thing with this is when you want to remove the toilet cassette, you do need to make sure the toilet on the inside is closed. Otherwise, you can't remove the toilet cassette. It stops you from removing this while people are using the caravan, the toilet, which avoids accidents, which is always good. When you want to remove the cassette, there's a little blue lever up on the inside. Lift the blue lever out, and it slides out. It's got wheels and a fold-out handle, so you don't need to carry a waste a second time. Then, when you get to the dump point, you pull your chute out, take the cap off, push and hold this blue button in while you tip it out. That just lets air flow through, so it helps the waste come out a bit easier. And then tip it down the dump point. Once it's empty, you need to put some new chemical into it. You can either get soft capsules, like what you put in washing machines and stuff like that. You just plop one of those down there, and that does it for you for the second load. Or if you get a big bottle of chemical, you do need to measure out how many mils of chemical go back into it. You can use this cap that has intervals on it, so you can measure out how many mils of chemical you're putting back into it. Now, when you're at the dump point, you can empty them and give them a washout if you need to. To gain access, you can slide this out, turn that open, and you can get in there with a hose and give it a bit of a rinse out just to stop it from building up in there over the years of use. Then, when you want to put it back into the caravan, just make sure this is facing away from you, and this too is also facing towards away from you. Then all you need to do is slide it back in until it clicks in, and then you're right to go again. Back's really easy, it's just a spare wheel. So, on the back here you've got your spare wheel. There's nothing you really need to worry about with this. It is a full rim, same as all your other ones. There is allocation at the back for a padlock. So there's two metal plates coming down on the angle. So you can put a padlock through there, and that stops you being able to remove your inner plate, so you can't take the spare wheel off without taking that padlock off. And then around here, behind your rear drop down leg, so you just pull that little red handle out and the leg drops down. you've got your waste water outlet. Now in your starter kit with your hoses, you do have a black fitting that will screw straight onto that outlet, and then you can attach a grey water hose and run it out to the dump point at the caravan park. If you've got a grey water tank, it'll be the same fitting, so the grey water hose can fit onto either grey water tank or just a straight outlet. Up the top there, you do have a sail track, so you can put a shade cloth along this side of the caravan if need be, to keep the sun off the side of the van, so in the summertime it keeps it a bit cooler and a bit nicer to stay on the inside. Then down here, now it depends on where your tanks are underneath the van to where these outlets are, but those are for draining your water tanks out. So that's for if the water's been in there for a long period of time and it's starting to get a bit bad on you, you can open them up and empty your water tanks. So that one's for the rear tank, so you just open up that red valve, let all the water out, close it back off, and then put fresh water in. Then just in front of that, you do have your battery box down there. You don't need to do anything with that. It just houses your battery. There's no general maintenance you need to do or anything like that. It's just on the outside, so it keeps it nice and safe away from you living on the inside. Then you've got your hot water system here. There's nothing you need to touch on the outside. It's screwed on. This is just vents for gas allowance so that it gets the hot air out and stuff like that. You don't need to go in here for anything. Your tyre pressures. So we fill the tyres up to 50 psi, but if it's a single axle caravan, we fill them up to 55 psi just to allocate for the different amounts of tyres. There's nothing you need to touch with the suspension. If you regularly get it serviced, that's what we do here. You don't need to go in there and change anything or anything like that. We look after all that kind of stuff. Just every time you go on a big trip, always check your wheel nuts and your tyre pressures before you leave, just to make sure they're okay so you don't have any issues on the road. Then just in front of your front wheel on this van, you've got your mains water inlet. So this is for when you're at a caravan park, you can attach to the water system at the caravan park and run off the water hose. So once again, like your grey water outlet, you do have a standard tap fitting in your starter kit. You just screw the tap fitting onto there, plug your hose in. Doesn't matter how much pressure you've got going through that hose, this is going to regulate it to work in your caravan, so you don't need to worry about busting fittings or anything off if you have the hose turned on to too much pressure. Now that's if you want to run it off a caravan park, but if you want to fill your water tanks, you've got your two fillers up here. Now it depends, once again, it also depends on what your caravan is. Your caravan might only have one filler. If it has that, it means that both your tanks are either running off the same pump or you just have one tank. But this van has two separate tanks. So with these, they just work like an old filler cap. So you just twist and it pops off. You're going to need to take the end off your hose to shove the open end down into there. Now when you're filling up your water tanks, don't have too much pressure going in too quickly, because you need to allow the air to escape from the tank when you're filling it. So you kind of work out your sweet spot of how much pressure you got going in to fill your tanks in the adequate amount of time. And then it's a very archaic system. When water starts flowing out, you know that your water tank's full, shut the hose off. I go around and check the gauge inside the caravan to make sure that it's reading full. And then you know that tank's full and you can switch over to your next one. Now when these are locked, they just free spin. You can't open them, you can't close them, they just spin around in a circle doing nothing. And then just in front of those, you've got your antenna inlet. So this is just for if you go to a caravan park that has antenna coverage, you can attach to their system at the caravan park and you don't need to worry about your antenna on the roof. Also, if the caravan park has Foxtel and stuff like that, you can attach to their system through that. And then at the front here, you've got your 15 amp power inlet here. Just like so. And you've also got your standard circuit breaker mounted beside it. Once again, you don't need to touch this for any reason. It's just like a household circuit breaker. If you plug in something that doesn't agree with the system, it will trip that down. Now on this side of the tunnel boot, you do have a light for convenience sake. in here, you do have your tyre iron for undoing your wheel nuts on your wheels. You've got your winder for your drop down legs. Now how this works is, once again, you pull your little lever out, drop the leg down, try and have it as straight up and down as you can. Obviously on uneven ground you might not be able to, but try and at least have it as straight as this. Then grab your winder, put it onto that bolt in the center of the handle, and then wind it down until it puts a little pressure down on the ground. You're not leveling the caravans with these, you're just taking the bounce out of the caravan while you're walking around inside it. If you try and lift up the caravan with these legs, you can damage them, and then it won't be a warranty item and you've got to pay for it. So I just wind it down until it's putting a little pressure down on the ground, and that just stops the caravan from moving around while you're walking around inside it. Then, to get it back up, you just reverse the process. So, put the winder back on, wind it up as far as she'll go. Then, pull the red handle out, lift it up so it's horizontal, let the handle lock back into place, and I always give it a bit of a shake to make sure it's not going to fall down on you while you're travelling down the road. Now the last thing in here is your jack. Now how your jack works is always on the back side, well on the rear of your back wheel, you've got this little bracket protruding out the side of the van. All you do to jack your caravan up is you slide this bracket over the top of that, and then your pin goes down through this, through that hole and out through the bottom, so it locks this onto there, and then you just wind your caravan up while you stand beside it. Now, it comes a bit higher than your bracket, so what you need to do is you use your wheel brace, which is a 19mm, same as your wheel nuts, on these two bolts, and you move this bracket up or down on these lugs like your jockey wheel to suit the height of this, so that you don't need to dig a trench or try and get the caravan on a certain angle to get this onto there. So you can adjust this to suit the height of your caravan when you want to jack it up. All right, so putting all your stuff back into the place where they belong, you've got this little bracket screwed into the floor. You drop that down into the cylinder there. Then your lock pin goes through the hole in the bracket mounted to the floor and locks this in so it can't move around. Then you clip your handle in the back there. Then this one, and then this just locks into there like so. And then you got a switch on the light itself in there so you can turn that off and on from the outside. Now, moving on to the awning. Now, a lot of people get a bit freaked out by this. It's really easy. It makes setting up a tent look like rocket science. Once you get used to the steps, it becomes second nature and you can have this packed up, set up in a matter of moments. Now, to work the carefree type of awning, you've got these lock tabs at the front here. There's a little plastic hook that pokes out through the center of your tab. What you need to do is push that little hook up, slide the tab out and around towards the front. Then at the back here, you've got two black knobs. The bottom one, you undo it just a couple of turns, just so it's loose like a tent pole, so it can slide in and out. You've got the exact same two screw and lock tab on the front. So you go to the front and undo those two. Then, when you've got this opened, it allows this shark fin looking piece here to slide up past where that used to be, all the way until it clicks your awning up there to the roll out position. You can see a little switch is moving there. So all the way up until you hear the click. Then, when she's up in that position, You grab your awning hook, grab your strap, and then pull it out towards you. Keep rolling it out until you can see this little flap is coming straight down off the barrel. That means that it's in the right spot. When you've got that out to the right position, this arm here slides up. A little metal clip locks it in through the top part of the arm there. Do the exact same with your front awning. Same thing, metal hook pokes up through the end there. Then, when you got both of these arms up, you've got two options moving forward. You can either separate your legs so you don't run into them at night, or you can get a bit more walkway space in here. So to remove your leg, what you need to do is there's a little tab here, push that towards the van, and then you can lift your leg out, bring the leg out till she's vertical, then pull out on your top brace and tighten up that screw that we loosened before, and that will stop this from concertinaing in on itself. Do the exact same with your rear leg. Then what you need to do is grab some pegs, peg it through the two holes at the bottom there. Then when that's done, you can lift this handle up, and then you can lift the awning up to the desired height where you're not going to hit your head on your barrel up there. Now that's your first option, but if you are limited by, if you're on a concrete pad or the ground is really wet or muddy and you don't really want to peg something into the ground, you don't need to have your leg out like this. You can leave it attached to the caravan. So what you can do is when you pack it back up, you just guide this back into that slot and she automatically clicks back in. Now, if you don't want to fully take the leg out and have it pegged out to the ground, what you can do instead is leave it hooked up to the caravan, lift this handle out while it's still attached to the van, and then lift it up that way. Now, as you can see, you don't need to do both sides at the same time. You can do them one at a time, so it's not a two-person job. It can be just a single-person job. And then when you get it up to the height that you want to do it, same thing as before, tighten up that screw there to stop the arm from moving around when the wind picks up. Now, speaking of wind, what you've got with the Carefrees is you've got a built-in anti-flapper. So what you can do with this is loosen the screw off here, and then you can bring it around and it can grab hold of your vinyl. So it means that in the light winds, it stops the awning from making a buffeting noise of a night time and stuff like that. Now, even if you've got your anti-flappers on, you've strapped down the awning and all that, we do recommend to roll the awning up in really strong winds. Even if you've got the awning tied down, it can still damage the caravan or the awning, and you don't want that while you're going away. So I suggest if it's looking like there's a big wind warning coming, always roll the awning up. It doesn't take that much time. Then when the wind passes, roll the awning back out. Because let's face it, you're not going to be out here when there's a big strong wind anyway. Now, packing up the awning is just to reverse the process. So first thing is you loosen off your anti-flapper, bring it around. Now there's a little hole in the arm where the thread for this bolt pokes up through to stop it from moving around while you're traveling. So you just got to try and find the sweet spot where that hole is. Also, a big thing with this is don't do it up too tight, because you can snap the plastic if you do this bolt up too tight. You don't need to do it up really tight, you just need to do it up just so that it can't undo itself. Then you loosen off your screw up here so that this arm can be allowed to move in and out. Then you lift your handle up here, bearing in mind you're taking the weight of the awning, so don't be too shocked by that. Also, don't keep your hands where they can get pinched by the track. Lift that handle up, slide it down all the way as far as it will go. On every awning there is always a bolt indicating how far down the leg should go, so always go down to that bolt. Then you need to drop your arms down up here. To do that, where the little hook pokes through the end, you just push it across to the side and then it unlocks the arm. So push that little hook across. And then same thing as your other arm, slide it down all the way as far as it will go. Then do the exact same on the rear part of the awning. So slide your arms down as far as they go. Then at this point, it's time to roll the awning back up. So what you do is grab your strap, slide it across to the rear, because what you need to do is you need to pull the awning down a little bit to take the tension off to turn this switch back towards the van. So you bring your strap over, pull it down just a little bit. You can see how that little switch starts to move. That indicates that the pressure's off of it. Then you can grab this piece here, slide it back until she clicks. Now, when it's in this position, it's in the roll up. Now, when the awning's in the roll up position, do always keep pressure down on the awning because there's nothing stopping this now from rolling up and hitting the van. So what I do is I'll put one hand on the barrel, slide the strap across to the center, like so, because I try and keep the strap as close to the center as I can, because it means when you roll the awning out the next time, you're pulling on the awning evenly. If you have the strap all the way up one end, you're generally pulling that leg out before the other leg, and it tends to jam because you're walking it out sideways. Now when you want to roll it back up, you just keep your strap nice and flat and just roll it up. You don't need to keep that much pressure on it, it's just controlling its ascent so it doesn't gain momentum. Up all the way. Then when she's up all the way, your little lock tab locks down, so it locks the two arms together. It also means that when this is down, you can't flick it to the roll out position. And then you go to your little black knob at the rear here and you tighten that up just so it can't jiggle loose while you're traveling down the road and you need to get a replacement one. Now on the inside of the caravan, you've got your control panel just beside the door as you walk in. Now this tells you everything that's going on in the van at the moment. So it tells you how full your water tanks are, how full your battery is, what voltage it's running at and stuff like that. Now with your water tanks, it depends on what caravan you have to how many water tanks you have. It will always say tank 1 through 4, but it depends on how many tanks you actually have fitted to the van is how many indicators are actually working at the present stage. Now this caravan just has 2 freshwater tanks and it doesn't have a grey water tank. If you have a grey water tank, it will be either tank 3 or tank 2 and it will be the empty one. Now with this as well, because it's got 2 separate tanks, because it's got 2 separate fillers outside, down here it's got pump 1 and pump 2. So with these, that means that pump 1 runs tank 1 and pump 2 runs tank 2. Now they always count up from the front of the van back. So your tank 1 is always the front tank, tank 2 is always the second tank along, and the third tank is always the rear tank. So it depends on how they're wired up as to how these tanks are displayed here. Beside your tanks, you've got your voltage in your battery, how many amps that you're currently using. Your solar will come up here automatically showing you how much the solar panel is charging the battery. And your auxiliary is the indicator from your Anderson plug, so how much your car's charging the battery. You don't need to touch anything with these controls here. It's just showing you that it's working. You don't need to flick switches or anything like that. It just does its own thing. You've also got a quick gauge up here that shows you how full the battery is just at a glance. Another handy thing with this is as well, is when you're unplugged from power and you're not charging the battery up, it will come up here showing you how many hours at the current power usage until your battery is rendered useless. It won't show you if you're charging because you don't need to know because you won't run out of power. It only shows you when you need to know. Now on this control panel, you do have some buttons over here on the right hand side. The top one up here with the little battery symbol, that's your power switch. So when you want to turn all the power off in the caravan, you can tap that button there and it turns all the power off so that it turns your fridge off, lights off, radio, everything off. So it means that you don't have to worry about anything flattening the battery. Now only turn that button off when you put it into storage because your fridge won't work if you have that off. So I don't turn it off when I'm traveling or anything. I just turn it off when I'm not using the caravan and it's at my house. The second button down with a little house symbol, That's just for us to access the settings. So say if we change something in here, if we add a third tank or anything like that, we can go into these settings and change what the readout says. The third button down, as you've seen me touch before, that's just your light, so it lights up the display so you can have a look at it. Then your bottom button is for your water pumps. Now to control pump 1, you just tap the button and it controls pump 1. So now it's on, tap it once more to turn it off. To control pump 2, you just hold it in so you can turn it off and on. So right now it's off, or hold it in to turn it on. Now what I usually do is with your pumps is if I have both of the tanks full, I'll always run off the second tank first, and then when that's empty I'll switch to the front tank. Also, if I'm just going to take one tank, I'll always fill up the front tank because it keeps your weight towards the front of the van, and it means that it makes for a more stable ride while you're driving down the road. Now, moving on to your TV. We always recommend to travel with the TV off, just because we can't guarantee it's going to stay up there while you're traveling. You might hit a bump or something like that, and we don't want your TV falling off and damaging anything. Now, when you want to put it on, this bracket here just slides down into this here, and then you've got this little screw here that you tighten up to stop the TV from coming off while you're using it. So you just lift her up, goes down over the bracket, then you tighten up that screw to stop it from moving around. You've got your power here, which gets plugged up into the leftmost plug up underneath the TV, and then your antenna goes into the rightmost one. Now your TV itself just runs on battery power, so it means that you can use it whether you're free camping or not. You've got a standard cigarette lighter socket up here that it runs on. It's got a built-in DVD player, HDMI, USB. It is a smart TV, so you can hook it up to the internet if you want to watch Netflix and stuff on it. There's also feet for the TV as well, so if you want to put it outside on your picnic table, you can if you want to do that. Now, one important thing if you want to watch TV is up here where your power comes out. There's a little button and a green light. That's for your booster. If you turn that button off, you lose reception for your TV. Your TV will still turn on. It's just no matter what you would do, it just won't pick up any channels. Now, when you want to watch TV, up here you have your antenna. So these are pretty simple. It tells you which way's up, which way's down on your little plate. So you wind it up until you can't wind anymore, which is that there. Then when she's up all the way, if you want to rotate it to find better reception, you can pull this collar down and rotate it like a periscope and just sit there watching your channel and see if the reception gets better or worse, depending on the position of your antenna. Now obviously, because you can rotate it, you need to make sure it's in the right spot when you wind it back down. So on it, on the base plate that doesn't move, there's a little arrow, and on the collar that does move, there's an arrow. So you just line up those two arrows so they're both facing backwards, and that makes sure that the antenna is actually in the right spot for when it winds back down. Then when you wind it down, just wind it down until it touches down on the roof. You don't need to put any pressure down on it when it's touching the roof, because it's going with the wind travel, so it won't lift up. And also, if you've wound it down in the right spot, it means that this bracket can't move because it's locked into its bracket and it's nice and secure for traveling. Always remember to wind it down when you go to travel. You can easily see it from the outside of the caravan when you look at the caravan on the outside, so just always look at the roof to make sure the antenna's down before you travel. Oh. Now, in here, so in your electronics cupboard, it depends on the size of the caravan to where this is in the caravan. It might not always be next to the microwave, but it will be somewhere near the kitchen area. Up here, you've got your battery management system, all your power, your solar, your charging, all that goes through this one system. You don't need to touch this. It's a set and forget system. You don't even need to come in here to look at it, because the control panel beside the door shows you everything that it's doing anyway. Pretty much everything on this black section, just leave it plugged in, turned on. You don't need to touch it. If something goes wrong with this, it's more so a problem for us to look at, but you don't need to worry about this. To the right side of that, you've got these 3 switches down here. Now the top switch is for your air conditioner and your bottom switch is for your fridge. These 2 switches I leave on all the time because your air conditioner will only work if you're plugged in the power anyway, so it defeats the purpose of turning that off. And your fridge is an automatic fridge, so it will automatically switch to electricity by itself. You don't need to worry about turning this off and on. These 2 switches are really for if you're running off a generator, a really small one, like a 1 kVA little thing, and you know it can't run your air conditioner or your fridge at the same time, you can turn these switches off in this cupboard, and it means that your family members don't accidentally turn it on and trip the generator out when you're running off of it. Now with the other 2 switches in here for your hot water system, I do turn those off when I'm traveling because you don't want to run your hot water system without any water in it. So every time I get to a new destination, I either plug in with the hose on the outside if I'm at a caravan park, or I turn the water pump on at the door, and then I run the tap on hot and cold for a little while to make sure there's water coming out of it. Then when you've made sure there's water coming out, I come into this cupboard. If you're free camping, you turn your gas switch on up the top there. You can see the little red light is flashing, indicating that it's trying to work on gas. Now when it's lit on gas, that light will go solid, indicating that it's working. If it has a problem, what it will do is that slow flash will turn to a quicker one, indicating that something's gone wrong. So that's gone solid there, indicating that it's working. Now when it's on, it will take about 50 minutes to get up to temperature because it is not an instantaneous hot water system, so you do need to allow it time to heat up, which takes about 50 minutes or so on electricity or gas. After that 15 minutes, it gives you enough for about a 4 to 5 minute shower, obviously depending on how hot you have the shower. And then once you're out of that initial 4 or 5 minutes, it takes about 20 minutes to reheat itself. So I usually space out the showers every 30 minutes to make sure that you've got enough water for your next shower. Now when the hot water system's up to temperature on the gas, the light will go out, indicating that it's up to temperature. And then it will go through the exact same thing again when it gets cold. It will start flashing again, telling you it's trying to light. It will go solid again, telling you that it's working again. At any point, you can turn the gas off. So over night time and in the middle of the day, I do turn the gas off on the hot water system just to conserve gas, because when you're free camping, everything else is running on gas. Now that's for if you're free camping, but if you're plugged into power at a caravan park, all you need to do is turn that switch on down there, and that just turns a power point on, so it runs the hot water system off the electricity. Now, as I said before, your times are the exact same whether or not you're running off electricity or gas for the hot water system. It just means that when you're at a powered site, you can flick that switch on and you don't need to use your gas bottle for heating up your hot water system. And then when I go to leave, I do just turn that switch off, just so that if you get home and plug your van into power to charge your battery up, your hot water system doesn't automatically turn on and start using electricity that you don't need to use. Now your cooktop, it does have a safety switch in it so that you can't work the gas while the lid's closed for family vans and stuff like that. Like everything known to gas, all you need to do is turn the knob in, turn it to the flame position, flick the switch in, leave it for a couple of seconds and let her out, and then you're cooking with gas. Now, you will notice around the caravan there is gas taps near gas appliances. They're just there for emergency purposes. If you think a specific item's leaking gas, you can turn that tap off and still use the van safely without having to worry about leaking gas. I never turn them off unless you do get a recall or you think something's leaking gas. It just means that you forget about it and you wonder why your cooktop's not working or anything like that. So don't worry about touching those. They're just there for emergency purposes. I leave them on all the time. As I said before, all I do is just turn the gas bottles off while I'm traveling. All right. Now your microwave is just a standard household microwave. If it is one of the microwaves that has a plate, do remember to remove it while you're traveling. Same thing with the TV. You don't want it being damaged while you're traveling or anything like that. So just remove it from the microwave or wrap it in something to stop it from moving around. Then you can either shove it in the lounge down there, or you can put it in your magazine pouch there. Just as long as if it's somewhere where it's secure and won't move around on you while you're traveling. And then, moving on, you've got your fridge. Now these are automatic fridges, so they'll automatically switch to run on what they need to, depending on what you're trying to run it off. So when you want to use it, hold that black button in there. The control panel will come up. Right now the A is illuminated, which is automatic mode, and because we're plugged into power, it's come up with your little plug. If you want to change the temperature on it, because it's not a frost-free freezer, you've got this little square here, so you can tap that button and it cycles through all your different temperatures. Higher the bar, colder it's going to get. Now after a while, the control panel will go out just to save power, but your blue light will always remain on in the off and on button. If it ever has a problem, what it will do is the whole panel will flash at you. This blue light will turn to a red flashing light, and it'll also flash a number over here so you can look in the booklet and troubleshoot what's going wrong with it. But as long as if it's not flashing, that blue light's on, it's working, and it's doing what it needs to do. All I do is every time I stop at a new place, so for fuel, for lunch, anything like that, I always look in through the window, make sure that blue light's on, the panel's not flashing, and you know your fridge is working fine. On your fridge door, you also have a travel catch, so you engage that when you're traveling, but when you get to a destination and want to use the fridge, you just push that across to the side, and it allows the door to come open. Now another thing with these doors is too, because a lot of the time with these fridges, their natural state is not being used because they're in storage for a lot longer than what they are being used. With these doors, you've got little arms that protrude out from both the fridge and the freezer. And then there's little holes inside the brackets where they lock into, so you can pop those into there and it keeps your doors slightly open. So for storage, it doesn't get moldy or anything like that. Now with the fridges, I always turn them on the day before just to get them cold, and then you can chuck your food in it, hook the car up and then chuff off. One thing to keep in mind with these is when you turn your car off, it doesn't immediately switch to gas. It does wait about 15 minutes. So don't be alarmed if you've turned your car off and you've turned the gas bottles on and this hasn't switched over yet. It does wait 15 minutes just to make sure that you've stopped for a long period of time and that you actually want it to light on gas. Alright, now with your bunk beds, they do all come with safety rails. So each bunk has a safety rail. There's little brackets that they pop down into just inside there. So it keeps them secure so the kids don't fall out. They also come with a ladder. Now when you're traveling, do always take the ladder off and store it in one of the bunks, because you can wear patterns in your floor and it can fall over and damage one of your walls or something like that. So always lift it up and put it on one of the bunks just to stop it from sliding around and putting holes in things. Now your toilet, it does swivel, so don't be too alarmed about that. Then when you want to use it, you do have the grey lever at the front. Push that to the side so it opens up the trapdoor inside of it. You've got your blue button on top to flush. This toilet only works off the water pump or mains pressure. It doesn't have a separate tank for flushing, so do make sure that you have your water pump on or mains pressure plugged in. Whatever this sink is running off is whatever the toilet's going to run off. So you just push that button in, hold it in for however long you want to flush the water into it. Then when you're done, slide your grey lever back across, and that shuts the trapdoor off to stop the fumes and stuff from coming up through the toilet. Alright. Now with your toilet, with your shower rose itself, it is cable tied up when it comes from factory, just to secure it while it comes up on the back of a truck. What most people do is they either have a Velcro strap or a bag, or they put it on the floor in a towel or something like that. Just they put it somewhere where it's secure and it can't rub marks into your wall or on your floor. Because if you keep it in the little hook, it can fall off when you're traveling and put holes in things and stuff. You also have your exhaust fan up there. So your exhaust fan only works when your light's on. So you can wind the hatch up and push that black button in and it turns the fan on. And then when you're done, you can wind it back up. And then your door itself has a travel lock. So you just twist that around, it locks the door in for transport so it can't swing open and smash itself. So your table, you've got this little flip down piece so you can get a bit more extra walkway space while you're using the caravan on the inside. So to lift it up, you just lift these two plates up so they're flat and allows it to fold down. So it just gives you a bit more space. When you want to use it as a full table again, you just grab the fold out piece, lift it up, and they automatically spring into place. You can also remove the tabletop completely if you want to. There's a screw up under here that you can loosen off, and then you can remove the whole tabletop. So if you want to access the storage in underneath your lounge, you can lift this out of the road. Your lounge does have storage in both compartments, so you just lift up your bottom cushions and you can lift the top up and get access to your storage. Then above that, you've got your radio. So she's just a standard aftermarket car radio. They don't come with CDs anymore because nobody uses them. It's got Bluetooth, USB, auxiliary, all the good stuff. You do have internal and external speakers. So if you want to switch between the two, if you want to start fights at the caravan park or not, you've got this little music note button just up and to the right of your knob. So tap that 4 times until it gets to fade. Then if you go to 10F, which is for front, it's just your inside speakers. Or if you go all the way to the left to 10R, it's rear, which is just your outside speakers. Or like a standard car fader, you can have a mixture between the two. So you can have it on F equals R, so it's through both equally, or you can have it slightly louder inside or outside. Also do have extra storage underneath your bed, so you can lift that up and you've just got a big open area for all your big things and stuff like that for storing while you're traveling. Now a big thing with this is don't let the bed fall down. Always keep it supported and just ease it down, because it can fall down on you and you can damage the timber after a while if you keep slamming it down all the time. So that concludes the rundown on your new caravan. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call. We can always help you out through anything, but you should be fine. And I've been Joshua Foreman, and I hope to see you on the road soon.